Hello everyone, welcome to another Treggyz video, and we're here. It's 10.2, kind of. I'm just at the little emerald portal area in the Naran Plains. This isn't actually 10.2. Uh, don't have don't have PTR yet. It's recording this on Thursday. It's only been a couple of hours since they announced all the 10.2 news, and I'd figured I would talk about it a little bit. Like maybe, there isn't anything new for me to share because, like I have all the same information most everyone else has. Although, I guess I just wanted to mostly share my thoughts and opinions, and especially concerning this video, I wanted to bring something back. Now, I may have mentioned the other day in my Vault video that I wanted to revisit my Season 3 dungeon pool video, which, well, it's a little late, because we just got news of 10.2, and we got the final list of dungeons that are going to be in 10.2. In fact, I could bring them up. Well, actually, I mean, those are my old ones. That's my list of dungeons from the previous video. So let me fix that real fast. Before I delete these classic dungeons off my little program, I definitely want to like footnote and say that like for whatever season 4, season 5, whatever the final Mythic Plus season of the expansion is, I think they should totally throw in a classic dungeon and do no changes to it, and just have it be, scaling with the fixes. That would maybe be fun, right? Maybe. Who knows? Probably not. There, that's a little more like it. Although, just think about it, Fury Warriors out there. How cool it would have been to have dual-wielded your new sweet two-handed legendary axe and a cut of death in the offhand. Just think of how much damage we would have done. Getting back into it. I'm definitely happy. Like the Dawn of the Infinites were like the freebie, right? Like the free giveaway dungeons to pick, and I'm definitely happy I got right with Waker's Manor, because Waker's Manor is just a fucking sick dungeon. In fact, let's go over and let's look at it. Let's do it in a smart way where I can actually look at the abilities this time. Like let's talk about the bosses and stuff. So I think, like, before I even actually talk about the bosses, though, the big thing to look at with Waker's Manor and bringing it back, I think Blizzard either needs to, this is the easiest thing, just fully open every door in Waker's Manor, let people go whichever route they want to do. If they always want to go to Triad first, they always want to go to Pigman first, right? Just fucking let us the players pick, right? Because there's always going to be a preferred route. And I think the only blemish on Waker's Manor is the fact that it was like this kind of weird route where it's like, what door did we get? Oh god, we got the wrong door. Let's just fucking reset, because we can't do the key at this level. That like we can't go to. I don't even remember the bad route. Like I feel like most everyone probably preferred doing Triad first. I think. I really don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't do, like I mentioned in my last dungeon video 2 months ago, I didn't do keys at like an exceptionally high level during Legion. Legion. BFA. Oof. During BFA was probably the highest I ever pushed keys, and I'm only really talking like 21s through 23s, I think. So even then, it's not that high compared to, the actual top 1% Mythic Plus pushers. So I really don't know which route was like the one where you just happen to get like the bottom right door just happens to brick your key, because I do remember the trash in that room. It was horrendous. It was like hunter dudes, and they just sucked. They really, really sucked. So I don't know that. But let's talk about the bosses. I'll just go right down from the top. So Triad, the big thing about Triad is they had this focusing iris on one of them, and pretty much the only boss that was like fully active was the one with the iris. It was the one DPS had to target to do damage to the boss. They all shared health. but like only the one with the iris actually took damage. And what would happen when they have the iris, they would also get like a bonus ability. Like they all had like these soul bolts, ruinous bolt, bramble bolt. That was like their base thing they did at like all times. But then like when they would get the iris, Sister Briar would do this jagged nettle and Aura of Thorns or whatever, right? This was just like the things that they just did with when they had the iris. And I didn't like, this is probably the only really bad fight in here. Like this and Gorok Tool, they're kind of, it's just sort of a mess. Like this is like a council fight without it being like full cleave and like being a deceptive AoE like cleave fight, and it's actually just single target. It kind of, I don't know. Like as a Fury Warrior, I guess I really benefited from having 3 targets to hit at all times because, you know, I got bonus rage from hitting Whirlwind on all 3 of them at all times, so I got Rampages a little faster, and I could cleave my Cold Steel Hot Blood and potentially cut a death procs onto the other 2 and get free, you know, healing back for myself. But I don't know. This was probably the weakest fight in here. I didn't really like it. Like it's just kind of weird to have like this kind of council fight in the dungeon. So let's kind of go to the next guy. Good old Soulbound. I really like Soulbound Goliath because it was a really fun tank check to kind of just like see how high stacks you could get to as the tank, because he would just eventually kind of clobber your tank if you weren't good. Like I did enjoy tanking this guy back then, because he would just, you know, his big thing was his soul harvesting, where he just literally gets 5% stacking damage every 2 seconds, and the way you would reset it is there would be lightning strikes that would put down a fire patch on the floor somewhere in the room. I think it was the entire courtyard, but I believe most everyone always just fought him in his initial like circle. But you could take him all the way back to like the fountain in the courtyard if you really wanted to, I think. But like, so when he walks into the fire patches, the boss gets stunned. He resets his stacks, and he also releases these burning souls that like, they're not real ads, but they would like fixate your healer most of all, but it would also just like target your damage and stuff. And pretty much someone would just get clobbered. So it was kind of like an interesting kind of decision making for the tank in the group of like, when do we want to deal with this like big like ad damage moment where, you know, the healer is going to get clobbered, your mage is going to get clobbered, whatever group you're running with, right? Someone is going to get smacked around a little bit. So you did have to think about when you're actually going to activate the boss's stun. But he also had to be careful because I remember this ability, Soul Thorns. He would just pick one of the other players in the group. It was like the non-tanks, so it could go on your healer, and they would just get stunned and they would take like ticking damage. And this shit fucking hurt on like tyrannical weeks. Like you just did not want to be the person picked for this, because you just potentially die. And like, so if you happen to, as the tank, let's say you're doing a lower level key, your tank doesn't really know about the timing of it. Maybe they know about stunning the boss to reset the stacks, but they don't know about Soul Thorns. They stun the boss at a bad time, Soul Thorns comes out, it's on the healer. The healer is a Resto Druid, let's say, and their hots are rolling on the whole group. They immediately get stunned by Soul Thorns, the ads come out, the healer gets targeted, you know, it's bad times, right? I don't think that ever happened to me, but, you know, I bet it happened to at least somebody back in BFA. But yeah, I like Soulbound Goliath. I think this is like one of my favorite dungeon tank fights, just because it's like, how many stacks can I go to this time, right? Like, is 30 okay? Is 40 okay, right? Because you could go pretty high with this if you were, you know, playing Prot Warrior and good enough, which I wasn't, you know, again, I wasn't like a high-level Prot Warrior or even like a tank of any of the tanks I did play back then, but, you know, I had fun with like, you know, pushing the stacks on this guy. Let's move on. you'll Ral the gluttonous, the big pig man in the ground, and literally in like a pool of his own his own something or other. He happens to have feet in his model in here, but in the actual dungeon, he's just covered in his own shit, right? The biggest thing I remember about this boss is he would call servants. Yep, I remember that. He would also do like a big frontal smash into like one of three corners of the room, so it would either be like middle, left, or right, and you would just have to dodge. Like, you know, don't be in the areas that's getting tenderized because you're probably gonna die. It says 0 damage in here, but that's not right. I seem to have acquired a friend. Consume all. He would do this whenever. Yeah, this is just like because again he's rooted in the floor. If the tank happened to walk away to grab an ad or whatever, because ads do get called, he would just start smacking everybody, and he would very much just like kill the group in like 2 or 3 like ground smacks. Consume servant. So yeah, he calls in servants, and they don't actually fight you. They just walk in from like this. It's like a big open room with like 6 doors in it, or 4 or 6 doors, one or the other. And you just have a servant come from every angle, and you as the group would just have to, you know, like CC2, kill the other 2 off, kill the other 2, you know, the other set off, make sure the bot, like these guys don't get to the boss because he eats them and he heals from it, if I remember right. And he also gets this damage buff, which I don't remember that being that bad, but I want to say he heals from it. But I mean, it doesn't say it in the dungeon journal, so maybe I'm misremembering. It just seems fitting for a big fat pig man who eats servants to, you know, get like a health buff from it. I don't know. Video game logic of eating food to heal. But yeah, he would also summon these little oozlings. So like this was a really fun fight that I liked because it was like constant like 4 to 5 target cleave at all times, which is just like muy bien for the old Fury Warrior in the group. Still, maybe not the best cleaver in the entire game, right? Like I think Outlaw Rogues are like kind of the king all expansion, or most of the expansion for like melee cleave. So they were probably still better, but I always enjoyed this fight as a Fury Warrior. It was kind of like my personal best fight that I felt I always did well on. Let's move on to the big Lord and Lady Waycrest cheeses themselves. So, like, the way this fight would start off is you are technically killing Lady Waycrest at all times, but she also has like 10 times dungeon boss health at all times. And what you're actually doing is you're fighting Lord Waycrest, and you kill him off 3 times, and every time you're about to kill him off at like 5 or 10%, Lady Waycrest would heal him with like using her health, literally right here, Vitality Transfer. So you would fight Lord Waycrest 3 times, and then you'd eventually like, I think at the last time she heals him, she jumps over and she actually fights you as well, if I remember correctly. Like, you definitely fight her for like not quite 20% of her health, but like somewhere around that. Like maybe it was like 10%. So I'm really sorry about this flashing. Like I think the new WoW patch is causing some errors with my my game. Or maybe it's just, I've been saying it on stream, I think my graphics card might be dying. It's one of the two. I'm going to blame WoW for right now. But yeah, so she would heal him, so yada yada yada. He did a big, I remember as the tank, I might just actually close this. I don't know the deal, but that was getting annoying. I will fix that some other time. So yeah, I remember as a prot warrior you could reflect the Wasting Strike, and it was just like lots of bonus damage right back at him. So like Fury or prot warriors were always the best tank, like for most of BFA, but this was like especially one of those really good fights for them because you just do bonus damage back for playing the right class. The other really big the other big mechanic for at least when you're fighting Lord Waycrest is he would throw out this circle onto members of the group, and you would just want to. The DPS would just hopefully be spread, and hopefully you have a disease dispel healer or someone who could off roll dispel, like a paladin or whatever, or else it would just this shit would just spread really bad, and you would just kill each other. This is literally the exact same circle as Brackenhide. Like there's those mobs at the end of the dungeon that do this like same exact circle, but this one is worse just because it's tyrannical on this thing like killed if it happened to spread at all. It was not good. Not good at all. And whenever again, like Lady Waycrest, you only fight her for like 5 or 10% of her health. She just does like you could kick Racking Cord or whatever, right? I'm fairly positive you could at least, and yeah, kill her, kill off Lord, kill off Lady. Moving on. Gorak Tool, the other kind of dumb boss fight in here, because he was just sort of a letdown. You got like 3 good dungeon bosses here, and then like you get to this guy at the very bottom of the house, and he's just a big joke. I remember. So the big thing about Gorak Tool is he would summon in these ads, and they would literally stun players for like 5 seconds and do a shit ton of damage to them. Like this would just outright kill people. I don't think it. I want to say it wasn't capped, so it could just outright kill someone. What you had to do is like stun, knock back, CC, do whatever you can to these ads to interrupt that cast, and you would kill them. But Gorak Tool would eventually, he would res those ads if you don't like burn their bodies. Because with these like you have like these NPC guys in the back of the room, they're throwing in these vials. You gotta burn the bodies of the ads. It's just looking at the time. It's like, shit, man. If I do this for every single dungeon, I'm gonna be here for a while. But I don't know. Moving on. Yeah. Kind of just like this. It's just like literally an ad management fight where you just slowly cleave the boss while also focusing down ads. And as long as you don't let the ads like get too spread out when they die or just, kill your group, this was just a joke of a fight. I don't know. So let's move on. Let's move back. It's like 15 minutes just for Waycrest. I'm gonna make great pace with this video. I was hoping to be like snappy with this one. Black or cold? I'll try to be snappier with the following ones, but I'm passionate about Waycrest Manor. It's a dungeon I've been looking forward to get back into. So let's kind of I'll try to blaze through the rest of these, so we're not all here today. So Amalgam of Souls. The only thing I remember about this guy was keep moving and avoid other players while afflicted. Yeah, I don't remember this at all. I just remember this like swirling scythe thing. That's all I remember from this boss. Oh, there were ads. Yeah, there were ads that like he would summon it on the corners of the room, and you had to kill him, of course, like any other ads. I don't really remember this fight at all. I don't think I ever wiped this particular fight, or at least to the best of my knowledge. Right? I'm sure it happened at least once, but for me, back in Legion, I think the highest key I ever did was, I think it was a Black Rook Hold at 18, and the reason I was invited was because they needed a warrior to rally for the last boss of the dungeon, but I guess I'll talk about that when I get to it. But yeah, I don't remember this guy at all. He's probably the most forgetful of the entirety of the bosses in this dungeon, at least in my opinion. I remember this boss a bit better though, because it's a big demon hunter chick. She would do demon hunter abilities, and she would spawn in ads. Just kind of taking a second to click all these. So it just like literally she did demon hunter abilities, dark rushes. She would just fixate 2 or 3 people. She would dash between them. They'd leave fire in between them, so you would like want to move to the sides of the room. People who get targeted just to not clutter the room. she would do this brutal glaive on people, and it would bounce and like afflict a bleeding effect. That was nasty. High beams. Yeah, I think this is the same as Blazing or Dark Rush, but I don't really remember this effect. I mostly just remember the Dark Rush, the Brutal Glaive, and the ads, where it's like you get this Vanguard guy who just, it's a frontal on the tank, so tank him in the corner, face it away from the group, kill it off. The big thing was definitely this ad that would just, he would do this stacking Arcane Blitz effect. And yeah, you just want to kill him off before, kill and interrupt him before he does like 2 casts in a row, because whoever gets that like second or third cast is really going to be fucking hurting. Smash Spite the Hateful. If I remember this guy right, he would charge, he would fixate a player and he would charge at him. And what you would have to do as the whole group is you'd have to like rotate people in and out. It's like I think you could like as a tank you could maybe take 2 charges in a row. Like I bet that'll be the strat this season. Like as long as it doesn't outright one shot. I again maybe it does too much damage to not be able to do that. I think this is actually literally the thing why you can't do that as a tank. You get debuffed by Brutal Haymaker and then he charges, I bet. So if you take this, it'll be 75% bonus damage on top of, any previous Hateful charge stack. So yeah, you don't really want to get hit by that. He would do Stomp, AoE damage to the group, knock them back. Yeah, again, I imagine the Brutal Haymaker goes off just before the charge every time. I don't remember the timing on the fight that well. And yeah, he just occasionally spawns in bat ads that you just, death grip into the group. You cleave it with the boss. I don't remember the bats ever being an issue for my limited time. And let's move on to the big cheese. Lord Kurtalos Ravencrest, or should I say, Dantalianax, whatever the hell. So the stage 1 is kind of just like, it's a fake fight where you think you're fighting off Kurtalos for, you're fighting off Ravencrest for like a minute. Like you blaze through it so quickly, none of this is even worth like mentioning. And the real fight starts when you eventually push Ravencrest at like 50% or something. Like you're fighting him for like 20-30 seconds. And then the caster ad in the room, he's blasting your party the whole time. He's doing shadow bolts, he's doing this big frontal line thing. You're just dodging and, dealing with it. And then he eventually, he stuns you, he stuns Ravencrest, he does RP bullshit. And he tries to kill the whole group. And I remember you get this buff from Ravencrest because he realized that he was like duped, and he buffs the entire group. But the thing with this boss was he would send out one of these shadow bolt volleys before you actually get this buff. And this would do like 2 times your health pool or something. So you had to press defenses and stuff to live through the hit. And then after that, you kind of are just chilling, but there was like this stinging swarm thing that would stun you, and you would just cleave. Like hopefully it'd be a melee, and they would just get cleaved while everyone else is fighting the boss. They just get their stinging swarm cleaved off them. This is anyone who played at the end of Shadowlands, it's a Dreadlord fight, right? Where they have bugs, they do a cloud of hypnotic gas that stuns and debuffs you. You don't want to be in the line they do. You don't want to get clocked by the first Shadow Bolt volley. It's a Dreadlord fight. It was they haven't changed too much besides just again the fact that you had to live through this very first Shadow Bolt volley and then after that you're kind of just chilling and killing the boss as long as you don't have people get capped by the stinging swarm. Let's move on. Again, it's all like if I were to rank the dungeons so far, it's like Galakron's Fall, I would say, is like it'd probably be like a B dungeon. Actually, I'd have to think. I'd have to think about that longer. Maybe I come back to that at the end. But yeah, I think I'll come back to that idea at the very end, and I'll kind of like I'll do like a broad strokes review. Maybe that's what I should have done at the start of this. Let's move on to Ataldazar, our favorite. I think everyone's favorite. Like troll BFA dungeon. I think the main thing I remember out of Ataldazar is like there was lots and lots of snapping in this dungeon, especially the like I haven't mentioned really any trash so far, but there were like swords on the bridge. I should have showed the map too while I was looking at this. So on this bridge, you would get like there would be like 2 sword packs here and here, two more packs there, 2 more here, and whenever you would like, most of the time you would either go left or right, of course, and you would then cross across. You would go across the bridge to the other boss. There's also a boss down here in the pit. But like the problem with the swords on the bridge is they did like a leap onto a player, and if it wasn't your tank, they would just kind of die on like fortified weeks. So like the big thing in BFA was snapping. There would be like braziers and like just like raised platforms on the sides of like the bridge where the tank would just literally like they would get like misdirected by a hunter. The tank would jump onto like that weird spot, and like all the mobs would just snap onto the tank, and they would then only do their abilities on the tank because like your group is like just like chilling out in the middle of the bridge here, and your tank is on like a raised platform that isn't like, you know, like it isn't pathed right for the ads to like go and attack your rest of your group. So like your party is just chilling and hitting their buttons, whereas the tank is kind of getting not clobbered, but you know, he's definitely taking some damage. He's kind of doing everything at that moment. And I think Ataldazar was one of like the worser cases of like snapping at times. Like this one in Shrine of the Storms, where there was just like there was lots of pulls where if you didn't snap them, you were just honestly trolling, like to not snap it. So hope like it's going to be interesting to see what Blizzard does with Ataldazar, like concerning snapping. And let's move back to the bosses. Yes, Blizz move. Gotta love add-ons always causing issues, like my details was earlier. So again, I'm just gonna go down the list of the bosses in their order. Priestess Alunza. My main thing I remember about her is she would try to like suck your blood, like the entire group, and what you would have to do is the parties, you would walk into these it'd be like golden pools, or it was blood pools, excuse me. You would walk into blood pools, and then it would like corrupt your blood. Your blood is tainted, and then when she sucks your blood, she gets damage taken. Whereas like if you don't have tainted blood, she heals from sucking your blood, right? So this was like a really dumb dungeon boss where literally she kind of just killed herself, as long as your group doesn't like accidentally eat 2 circles, or the ad in the encounter, he would walk around and he would suck up your blood pools. So you had to kind of just keep control of the ad. Yeah. Gilded Claws on the tank, right? It's just a tank mechanic, who cares? Oh, she would also do Dispel onto people, so just instant Dispel that shit. Or else people would maybe die on like high tyrannical. No, this was kind of like a dumb fight. I think you did trash with this boss because she just killed herself as long as you get tainted blood. Not much to talk about. Volt Call, though. I remember this boss a lot. The big thing with this boss is at the start of the fight, he would have these totems. There'd be 3 totems in the room. And I could probably just like bring up the dungeon map just to show it off if I'm not an idiot. I don't know how to get out of here. Whatever. So he would in a big triangle room. There'd be 3 totems in each corner, and like the DPS would just literally spread and kill the totems. And what you needed to do was you needed to kill all your totems at relatively the same time, or else like that totem would like full heal back, and you'd have to, as a whole group, restart the fight pretty much. And the whole time, Volkal is smacking your tank. He's also debuffing players, if I remember right. I think even in the first phase, he debuffs players. Yeah, I believe so. If that's wrong, you know, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm probably wrong about a lot of stuff in this video. Considering all I'm really using is the adventure guide. Like I have MDT as well, but last time I used MDT in the previous video, it didn't really show off abilities too well. It would probably work in a Tall Desart because that's recent enough, right? But who knows? But yeah, once you kill all 3 totems, the actual boss is then fightable. He is just sitting in full healing every moment the totems are alive. So you can't actually do the boss fight until the totems are dead. But as soon as they are dead, he kind of hulks out a little bit more. He doesn't heal anymore. He does bonus damage, and he begins spitting out like toxic pools, which is just like he does swirlies on every single person in the group at all times, pretty much. And pretty much what you would just ideally you would do is like you would have like your ranged players in like the dead middle of the room, kind of like spinning around the inner triangle, and melee and the tank would be on like the outer edge of the triangle, and you're kind of just slowly spinning around the room. I can't remember if the pools go away. I think they had to, right? Because like on high enough tyrannical keys, this boss would just otherwise be undoable. But maybe that is also part of the challenge, is like finding that right level where you can actually still kill the boss in time. But again, like the way the pools worked, like the swirlies, is as long as your group is baiting it right, you actually have a shit ton of room. So I'm sure at like the highest levels, it probably wasn't even an issue, and you could probably kill them in like the corner without even needing the full corner, right? If you're just like absolutely pixel perfect with your movement. And hi, Raven. Raven has joined me to help with the video. I don't need my other hand, so for this. So yeah, this is kind of your basic like single target patchwork fight where you kill him before he kills you, or you run a room, more likely. Kind of a good fight, I remember him right. Although it was really annoying in low-level keys when your DPS wouldn't coordinate the killing of the totem, and like you just have one person that kills their totem too fast, and you have like your totems just get off sync, and you like fight. I definitely have had that happen to me at least once. I can't remember the level of the key. Was Raven? I love you, Raven. I definitely had like at least one time where like we probably sat and killed the totems like 6 times in a row before we finally got it like all synced up and actually got to start the fight like 3 minutes later. I know it happened at least once to me. It's probably happened to a few people. And then you just killed the boss. Dodge around in a little corner. Razan. Good old the big dog, the big T-Rex in the bottom of the dungeon, and like the pit below the bridge. Biggest thing I remember about this boss is definitely the pursuit mechanic he would do, where he just literally would fixate a player and he will devour them, very literally. And I think what you would do is, if you have like a paladin in your group, is you would just like bubble the person who gets it, just to have better uptime on the boss, because if he's chasing around a player, your melee and stuff aren't doing damage. So you would, if you had an immunity, you would just pop it to let everyone in the group just sit and smack the boss. Yeah, he also had these like ads that weren't really an issue at all, unless your party was just all over the place and didn't know any better. I don't think these get spawned in at all, like during the fight. These were just strewn about the whole room, and they would only awaken if your player actually like runs somewhere just they just shouldn't like be there, right? So like what you would always do, there was like these like pools on the side of the boss room where there would just be none of these ancient dry bones at, and you just fight the boss. You would just move the boss back and forth with pursuits or whatever, and you just never have to deal with this mechanic. The only reason you ever saw these ads is if someone was actually trolling, pretty much. Oh, but the boss, it says there in Heroic and Mythic, Rizan will also wake up the ads if he walks over them. So again, whoever gets fixated, just don't run the boss in a weird place, and there's nothing to worry about. And the other big thing on this fight was the terrifying Visage, where it causes enemies in line of sight to flee in fear for 6 seconds. And this was a, it's kind of a non-ability as long as people know about it. Where again, you'd fight them on the sides of the room where there'd be these big golden pillars on the sides of the room, and you would just duck behind it just as the Visage is about to finish casting, because it was like a 4 or 5 second long cast time, if I'm right. So you just sit as a melee, I'd sit out and smack them for a bit and then hide at the last second if I didn't have back then warriors had we actually had access to our one talent, Berserker Age, where we could just go immune to fear, warriors best class. But yeah, we don't really have that anymore without significantly losing a talent point somewhere else. But I don't think anyone's going to need it anyway for a boss fight like Rizan. It's a non-factor. Can you please stop popping up Blue's move? And there's also a tank hit, which it's a tank hit. He bleeds. Like, I think it would hurt. It would hurt a little bit. So I think you would just make sure to pop something for sure as the tank. And moving on to the last boss, of course, Yasma. This was a fucking fight. This was another fight where if it just if it happens to go badly, you would just sit and fight this boss forever. She would spawn in these really annoying shadow spiders they're like moving death pools that if you happen to get hit by it, you just die. Like, even on lower level difficulties, those spiders did just an absolute shit ton of damage. And the thing with this boss is you would, as the tank, you would just be slowly rotating the boss around the room. It's not a huge room either. It's like it's a pretty tiny boss room, all things considered, and you would just, as the tank, be spinning the boss around, like kind of kiting these shadow spiders that are occasionally chasing you and the party. Like, sometimes they're just wiggling around back and forth, other times they're actually fully fixating your group, so you just always have to be conscious of like where they're at and where you're at. But people definitely got clipped because you would have to occasionally, as the rest of the group, everyone besides the tank, you would have to move as far away as possible from the boss because she was causing ghosts to spawn on you that when they reach her, it causes this soul feast, which is just a big, like, you could maybe have one soul feast go off and you're probably okay, but if you have 2 go off, you're dead. So it was just like, never ever let those ads touch the boss. Like, use everything possible to keep them away. Monk Ring of Peace, Death Knight, Death gripping the ads away from the boss, not like a Blood Death Knight tank gripping them to the boss. That would be bad. But yeah, the biggest thing was definitely the spiders, if I remember right. Like, those would just kill people. Skewer also really hurt as the tank. And there's also this Racking Pain Curse that you had to always interrupt. So if you happen to mess up your kick rotation, because this goes off pretty regularly, if I remember right, you just always want to be on the ball with it, or else someone is probably going to die. Unless you happen to have a curse dispeller, maybe you could, maybe it's not a big deal. But I remember it being very nasty, so you probably still don't want to let it go off. Let's move on to the next dungeon. I'm a little over halfway through. I'll try to be faster with the remaining ones. But Throne of the Tides is a fucking real doozy, right? Like, in my previous dungeon pool, I picked this is the only one I really regretted afterward, is Halls of Stone, because the reason I picked it was because there's a Dawn of the Infinite item, like Tyr's Hand, that happens to have a bonus effect for Uld, like Titan locations, and I figured Halls of Stone would count as Ulduar, and I kind of like loosely tied it in that way. Like, admittedly, a lot of my dungeon picks were like following that same logic, where it's like There's Demon Bane, so I added some dungeons with demons in it. There's Scourge Bane, I added some dungeons with undead mobs in it. There's a Ulduar weapon, so I added in a Ulduar dungeon. You know, that was kind of my main reasoning for these ones, and it was kind of poorly judged, but I don't mind being wrong. I made the list for fun anyway, and just to make a video. I'm still proud of the video too. Despite it being old and my very first video, I still thought it came out pretty all right. Came out very long, kind of like how this one is going to end up being, but that such is the way when you're trying to discuss these dungeons. So yeah, let's move on to Throne of the Tides. I'm sure everyone's newest favorite dungeon from Cataclysm. I feel like Blizzard put like every single most terrible dungeon of all time into a hat, and then they just picked from it, and they happened to pick Throne of the Tides because this is like a troll. This is a pretty damn troll dungeon to have picked. Most notably for a gigantic elevator in the middle of it, where you go from the bottom right here. There's a big jellyfish you have to take up to the top, and it's just, I feel like that in a Mythic Plus is, if you happen to get like the bad timing on the elevator, you're just fucking losing like 3 minutes. I really hope what they end up doing is just actually put like a portal here, or a clicky something or other to like spawn the elevator at the bottom, or like even just let you port up to the top, because otherwise I think this place is going to just be like, you just, again, if you happen to like there's like 2 trash packs here, and then there's like a, not quite a mini boss, but like a lieutenant, I guess is the right term, mob you have to kill. If you happen to just have bad timing with your trash kills, you're just going to be stuck down here for 2 or 3 minutes. And at a certain level, I bet it's like, oh man, this Ozomat is a 5-minute long encounter. It's, if you don't get up, you don't get up on that first elevator ride up, you may as well just, run out and reset. But I don't actually think Ozomat will be an issue. This is the last boss of the dungeon, by the way, in case you don't know. Let's move on. Let's move on to the first boss of the dungeon. It isn't actually this guy. It's actually Lady Nazjar. I should probably just turn that add-on off if it's going to keep popping up. Lady Nazjar, she would just be in this middle of this watery room, and she would just occasionally summon in ads. And the boss herself doesn't really do anything, if I remember right. She does this shock blast. It's fun. Like, I don't remember this ability at all. The only thing I remember is this geyser, because what would happen is she would put this geyser under people's feet, and it's like kind of it's not hard to see, but it is, if you're not paying attention, you could just get caught by it, and then the geyser would knock you up high enough that where if you don't have some way to break your fall or slow your fall in some way, you would just die from fall damage. And I imagine on Tyrannical and stuff, this dungeon, geyser will just, the damage from the geyser itself will probably just one-shot you. It's hard to say. Like, I don't really know anything about fungal spores on this fight. Like, I've only done this dungeon as like heroic back in Cataclysm and time walking the last few years, so everything is going to be really skewed in the usually you just blow this boss up in 20 seconds and you're moving on already. But at least it's like, yeah, you get geysers that kill you from fall damage, shock blast, interrupt, fungal spores you just bring a disease dispel and get rid of, and water spout, which is again like she only does it twice in the fight, 60 and 30%. She spawns in ads. You'll just like what you'll just do is you'll just kick one of the 2 Naga casters, and you just drag the honor guard to, like, you just get them in a death ball and you kill them real fast. And while she is water spouting, she also does do like little water tornadoes that move slowly away from the boss, like stunned in the middle, and you just need to dodge them. It's not a big deal. And again, you just do the ads twice and you move on. And where you moved from, the next boss in the room, he jumps down from the ceiling as you kill Nizjar, and you then fight him. And this guy doesn't really do anything. The only thing I remember about this fight that was like ever hard was like way back in Cataclysm Heroics. Like if you happen to just get this dark fissure in a bad spot, like if your tank tanked the boss in the dead middle of the room, you would just absolutely kill your whole group because this dark fissure eventually just expands and into the entire room. So what you need to do is just drag the boss to the sides and just slowly rotate around the room. But it's definitely possible on higher tyrannical fights that this shit will just eventually kill you because it expands pretty quickly. I'm sure Blizzard's already going to think about it on like how quickly the fissure expands, or if it even they could even add in like a 2-minute timer on it where it'll just about fill up the whole room, but then it'll despawn or something. It's hard to say, but I think this is the only real ability on this boss that'll, cause anyone any issue. Squeeze. This is just like a random player in the group gets, stunned and takes a shitload of damage. It's, put something on him, put an external on him, and heal him up. I don't remember the curse, but I do not like the looks of the melee ranged and cast speeds reduced by 50%. That's not good. So definitely bring a curse to spell to this place. and he also would enrage. I think this is more of like it's just like a tank mechanic because he doesn't actually do anything else to the tank. So it's just like a, pop something as the tank or run away for 10 seconds. He isn't very fast, remember, right? You just kite him. And now this is probably the biggest like question mark of this dungeon is Mindbender Gersha. So if you've ran Time Walking or even Heroic for the last like fucking 10 years since this place was like a thing, I believe for forever Mindbender Gersha has actually been like an optional boss that no one has fought in like 10 years. You would only go to this guy in like Kata Heroic because someone needed this trinket or whatever. I don't actually know if anyone ever needed this trinket, right? But you would go for him for his loot if you needed it. So I don't really remember this guy at all, outside of like the fact that like the actual boss is just like this little squid guy, and you're fighting you would be fighting a broken Jernai guy. But like what happens is you eventually do enough damage to the broken Jernai that this guy comes off and you want to just blow him up ASAP because this boss doesn't actually have a ton of health, if I remember right. So I don't know if you could kill it off in like one lust. Probably, maybe on like a low enough key level, but it's hard to say. But this is going to be the biggest question mark of the entirety of Throne of the Tides Mythic Plus because no one has fought in this mob in 10 years. But yeah, like, see, here's Aronok, Stone Speaker. This is the broken guy. He does Ember Strike, which just looks like a... Look at how much, like, text is on this fight. Like, compared to this jar, actually, I guess all these guys have a lot of text. I guess I'm thinking about, what am I thinking about? One of the other dungeons I was just looking at had nothing as far as boss abilities. So I'm just suddenly surprised to see like paragraphs of text. But yeah, like this looks like a tank hit, not a big deal. A dispel on somebody. Oh, it's a big frontal cone. It looks like it's probably gonna like randomly spin or something. Lava bolt to get kicked. Nothing too crazy. Oh, swirlies. Yeah, swirlies at random points in the room. Actually, no, this isn't swirlies. It literally is a gigantic earth shard that just like moves. So you're gonna have to watch yourself in relation to this this spike. Oh, the other nice thing about this boss, I definitely remember this. Yeah, the actual boss, the little tentacle head man, he absorbs magic. So get fucked, spellcasters. watch them change this ability to not be a thing. Oh, the best thing about it is, yeah, literally, like if you have a fire mage that is just ready to bust all over this guy at the wrong moment, he will just full heal the boss, the actual little squid man. So hopefully Blizzard changes this to not heal and or, maybe just not be a thing. But I guess we'll see what happens. Mind Fog. It looks like just another cloud that does damage and stuns and debuffs you, so don't be in the cloud, of course. I want to. I guess that's just maybe this is like the soft enrage or something. Channels excruciating pain to all nearby enemies, inflicting 12k damage every second for 10 seconds. I feel like that's like a thing where you just like want to blow him up before he does that, or like it's gonna be, it's hard to say what the actual damage of the ability is because yeah, it's like not quite right. Like only 12k is too low for our current health pools, but it's obviously gonna get scaled with Mythic Plus, so I don't remember the ability at all. And yeah, the boss, I believe whenever you bust Aranuk down, I can't remember if he gets mind controlled or not, but the boss itself, he definitely does occasionally jump onto another player, one of your party members, and they get charmed. And yeah, it looks like you just blow up your friend until they hit 50%. Hopefully you don't dot them up too bad and they they don't immediately die right after. So this is gonna be the big question mark for sure, 100%. I've said that like 3 or 4 times now, but it is definitely the question mark of how the dungeon is gonna be, I think. And in addition to the elevator, the 2 big outliers on this dungeon for a Mythic Plus pick. But I think Ozumat, the last boss of the dungeon, actually is a good fight. The biggest thing about it is again, like you can read it right there, stage 1 lasts for 60 seconds. You just literally sit and fight ads for a minute. Stage 2, you're also just fighting ads for a minute. There's 3, like you're just dealing with waves of Murlocs, these and faceless guys. Stage 2, there's going to be 3 faceless guys in the corners of the room. You just, as DPS, you just rotate around the room, you kill off the ads. And then you start stage 3, where Neptulon, he's in the room. He's one of the he's the big water guy, right? Like Alec here is the Wind Lord. He's the Tide Lord or whatever, right? He's World of Warcraft's Poseidon, if you want to think about it like that. And he just gigabuffs the whole group. So I imagine in Mythic Plus, it's either going to be like you just literally need to live for like 2 minutes to deal with stage 1 and stage 2. And then you just get to kill the final boss off, because it might be really odd if it doesn't happen right away. Like I think this will be the other question mark, and like how does Wizard actually tackle the huge giga buff you get, because you're gonna like struggle for 20 minutes getting through the rest of this shit, and then you're gonna just cruise through this fucking boss, I feel. Sure, you could die to the Blight because it's really nasty and it needs to... I don't think you can even dispel it, the Blight, that kind of... Like, it's like just oil on the floor, and it stacks up, like it says. And it doesn't go off, apparently. So yeah, you just gotta be careful standing in bad, like always. Throne of the Tides. I think Throne of the Tides is so troll that even I would have picked it for my list when I was sort of trolling it on a pick or two. I won't lie. Let's get the next one. Darkheart Thicket, though. The old Darkheart Thicket. This is one of the 2 dungeons that, like, it ties in with the theme of the patch of Emerald Dream, of growth, and I guess specifically for Darkheart Thicket, it's like a mini version of the Emerald Nightmare, which we dealt with back in Legion. So it still ties to the theme of the patch in that it's like Emerald Dream sort of focused. But let's talk about the bosses. Poorly, I might say. I'm definitely, my throat's getting really dry and scratchy. Definitely been not been talked. I haven't had to talk this long in a long time. Like, even when I streamed for 16 hours the other day on Monday, by the way. But even then, I didn't like sit and talk for the entirety of the 16 hours, right? So this is kind of a struggle right now. Archdruid Gledalis. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Archdruid Gledalis, he's just a druid guy. He transforms into bear and cat forms, right? Uh, yeah, he doesn't even. He only has 4 abilities. The only thing I remember is literally he does this Nightmare Corrupted Star, which just spreads a little shadow. It's a little shadow shit pool that just slowly spreads throughout the room. So you gotta. I think you can bait these as like a party, if I remember right. So you just need to be in smart places and not standing in the dead center of the room and have this shit start spreading from the dead middle. He also does a frontal charge onto the tank. And you just, as a tank, you face the boss away from the party at all times. You like tank him at a wall. So when he does this, he doesn't knock you. Like, this was a pretty significant knockback, if I remember right. You don't want to get knocked back too far. Or, again, kill your party members with the charge, or it looks like it's a frontal and then a charge that, like, it's a double tap. You definitely do not want to be facing this guy into the group. And then it's Grievous Sleep. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with this mechanic from like Brackenhide. It's the same thing as the Jagged Bites or something, where you just, as a healer, you just have to heal the damage dot until the player goes above 90%, or else they're gonna just slowly sit and bleed out. So that's also like just like the first boss of Brackenhide 2. I spaced it, where you have to just heal the debuff away. So not a ton going on. Just don't be in bad. Face the boss away from the rest of your party tanks and heal. Just like any boss. Oakheart. Oh, dude, this is the punniest boss in all of WoW. This will be the guy to come and do Darkheart Thicket for it, because he has fucking great voice lines. It's just all tree puns. Yeah, this is a punny boss. Excuse me again. Oakheart, Crushing Grip on the tank. He will just sit and fucking yeet your tank at somebody. So, tanks, you want to press something, I guess. Make sure you don't kill yourself or accidentally kill your party member. I don't think the actual, like, you getting yeeted does any damage to the person, but, probably just don't be stacked, probably, is the thing. Although you do want to stack, if I remember right, for this root mechanic. The boss will just spawn roots underneath the entire party, and if you have them, like, clumped up, you could AoE them down pretty easily. Although if I remember right, they may not take like proper AoE damage. If I remember right, they might need to get single targeted down. I can't fully remember. But like the roots do, it isn't mentioned here. I was gonna say, yeah, here. If you don't kill the roots off, these ads spawn from the roots. So you just kind of like want to keep the roots themselves contained and avoid having ads get spawned. He also does a big knockback on the whole group. Nothing crazy. Does a frontal. It looks like it's on the tank, I assume. Again, it would probably help if I had like videos to like look at and review how this stuff worked, but that's too much work for me. Especially like crediting someone else. I don't know. I don't know if anyone wants to get credited in my work. At least not yet. Let's move on to Dressarin, who this is another kind of an interesting boss. I mostly remember as a tank at the time, you would just get fucking clapped by this this breath ability. I think what I ended up learning later on is you could like walk through the boss. He would do like the frontal on you as the tank, and you could just walk through it, and he doesn't like spin. So you just need to be careful not to get like tagged multiple times, if I remember correctly. Because I just remember getting fucking clapped by this guy like one time when I was tanking it. But the big thing about the boss is he has these like throughout the trash leading up to the boss, there's nightmare eggs on the sides of the room. If you or a party member walks over the eggs or near them, they like crack open and a dragon whelping comes out, and they're not that bad. Like a single one on its own, it's just pad, right? But if you happen to get say 10 or 15 or 20, because these things are fucking everywhere, it's kind of a lot of damage. I mean, maybe not a ton of damage, but it's definitely like maybe like a moment of hectic, tank doesn't have aggro on it, and it could potentially kill someone, like swap and kill your healer. So you just need to be very careful touching the eggs on the sides of the room. And like that's a bit of a challenge because the boss has downdraft, which he flaps his wings and pushes away the whole party. And it's a pretty aggressive pushback, if I remember right. You gotta be on the ball about like running forward and using speed buffs and stuff to not get knocked into eggs. So let's see if Blizzard adjusts the aggressiveness of that knockback. But at the same time, if they did, I think that would make the fight really trivial. So hopefully they just, like, again, I can't remember if it was the breath or this earth-shaking roar, but something absolutely like giga clapped me one time when I tanked this place. Like, probably not at a high level, I was just probably really bad. I mean, it's still true, but yeah, it's a big dragon fight where he, pushes you away into eggs. It's like a Nixia from back in Classic, just don't go into the eggs or whatever. And let's move on to the last boss. Good old Xavius. This was a 2-phase fight, if I remember right. Sort of. I mean, I guess like the last phase is kind of fake. He just like empowers himself to do like, passive group damage, if I remember right. That's like all phase 2 is. It's like 60%. But you just have to be like managing his other abilities carefully. He does like Festering Grip on the tank. Or maybe it can go on anyone. I'm pretty sure it's on the tank though. Nightmare Bolt that I think you can... I want to say you could kick that, but no, I guess not, because it literally ties into Waking Nightmare, which is like probably one of the most notable abilities on this encounter. You need to stand with an ally whenever you have Waking Nightmare on you, or else you're literally silenced and pacified, and you're not playing the game. We've all definitely been in at least one key or one time walking, because this is a time walking dungeon where someone is like off in Narnia. It's like a Beastmaster Hunter. They're just playing the game, and they're not actually playing the game at all because they're literally silenced and feared on their own. Yeah. And then the other ability on the fight, I was just like reading it again. I was like, I'm pretty sure like this is the stack mechanic. This is the spread mechanic where he'll put like a fear circle on someone, and if you happen to be stacked up, you will fear yourself and whoever happens to be nearby. It's just this fight. I remember it was just literally a healer check and be stacked or not stacked check. It's a real one. It's a real one for sure. And I believe that leaves us to the old Everbloom as the last one. So let's talk about Everbloom. I kind of thought about it. I didn't really need this program at all, outside of just, I don't know, to revisit my old ones, make my King's Rest joke. And also, again, say that I regretted picking Halls of Stone. Like, Halls of Stone, just fucking get rid of it. That was definitely like a troll pick on my end, but, Let's go to Everbloom, sadly. I think I'm a little worried about Everbloom and the fact that it's another Warlords of Draenor dungeon. And all of us who played in Season 1 of Dragonflight, Shadow and Battleground is just like, it was just a fucking joke, man. Like it wasn't even really like a fun encounter either to go and do Shadow Manu. It was the most convenient and fast to like run over and over. So it was like the easy get your 20s in place to go and run. And there's also like I guess they've already been patched, but there was like an issue with this dungeon at first, like where there was lots of like really out of the way and kind of annoying to do skips where you could like you know, you could go like jump up into a corner and eventually, you know, you hit that right pixel and it happens to, you know, like oh, I would stick right there at that like the top of the little line on this tree, right? Like that would be the Everblue, and you'd use that to like skip over to the first boss, and you'd turn around, you go to the second boss. Like I don't think there's anything else in there like that, but it was definitely like one really bad skip where you could skip like a third of the entire dungeon's trash just by like making this one specific jump, and then using your vehicle mounts where you know get rid of your NPCs and you have your friends click on you to get them up. But again, I'm pretty sure they already patched all that stuff out years ago, so hopefully it's not an issue. Excuse me. Wither bark. Still got the dry throat going on, which is it's similar to the boss. He has an ability called Parched Gasp. Talk about a tie-in. So if I remember this boss right, he himself takes bonus damage at all times, and what the player group has to do is primarily just like you blow up these ads that spawn in on the sides of the room from like this like water pool. Or I can't remember if you have to like eat them, like you walk into them yourself, or if you like damage them to kill them. It's been a minute since I've run this place on time walking. Let's just say that I don't fully remember it. Like a lot of these places, I suppose. Like I don't even. Or maybe you have to bait the water into these little swirlies on the ground, the unchecked growths. I can't. Like I think you just definitely want to keep the boss as a brittle bark thing, because oh wait, no. Oh, I could probably just like go ahead and like undo the last 5 minutes. So the boss itself, he starts with like 0 energy and he slowly builds up, and like then he gets stunned or something. Like actually, I guess I could probably still delete the last few minutes. I don't remember this boss fight at all. You kill it off in 3 seconds in time walking. I never ran this place in challenge mode back in WoD. I was an extremely bad, fresh out of high school young man when this boss fight was a thing. So, and I didn't play Warlords of Draenor at a high level at all. I did LFR, I think, as the highest thing I did. Although I might have I think I bought myself yeah, I believe I bought myself an ahead of the curve kill because I wanted the moose. So that's like technically my I believe that's my first ahead of the curve, and that I actually did buy it. It led on to all right, add-on issue is done. I could probably still leave most of what I talked about on with the Brock. I don't remember the boss fight. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tree. You get him dry, and then he takes bonus damage. Let's move on. Ancient Protectors. This is a three boss triad fight of sorts, just like Heartsbane Triad and Waycrest Banner, and you just need to kill the guys off in like a specific order. I'm pretty sure. Like you just go for the healer guy first, and then you go for the other caster guy, and then you just finally turn and finish off the big tank ad. And it's like, look at all these like interruptible things. This is gonna be a kick hell, probably. Although I'm pretty sure it's like, you know, you'll probably let the Nature Wrath and the Water Bolts go through, and you'll make sure to obviously kick this, kick that, you know. You'll want to like dispel these if they happen to go off. I'm sure I'm sure there'll be something that comes up later on where Nature's Wrath does too much damage, so you need to prioritize kicking that, and you just dispel the other abilities, something or other. The tank ad does tank things on the tank. Looks like he stuns people. Like I feel like out of all the dungeons, actually, this is the one I'm like least qualified to talk about in any way, because I've only ever run this place on time walking and like heroics back in WoD. All of these dungeons were just jokes. Oh, there's also a yeah, I was gonna say there's also another bonus boss in this dungeon where, just like in Throne of the Tides, this boss Zeratak is like completely optional, and you usually do just run away. You know, you run past it because it's in a cave, like just not. It's just out of the way, so people don't do it unless they absolutely want to go and get loot off it. So I don't have the shield appearance because I've probably only killed this guy once. But let's talk about a good fight though. Like a mostly good fight. I remember liking this fight mostly for this mechanic. This is a mage that's been corrupted by the Everbloom like plants, and she's kind of like gone mad with this parasitic growth and injection stuff. And she does this like fire flower ability, and I think it's a cool mechanic in that like the way you deal with it is you just have to jump over this like expanding ring of fire. I think it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of fun and different mechanic and like in how you dodge it, in that you just literally have to jump over it. I don't know, maybe I'm weird for liking that, but it's kind of different to have a mechanic like that where you just literally, you don't have to do anything else. You just jump over the mechanic, or else you get blasted by fire, right? It's like, that's different. Yeah, it's a mage, so it just fireballs, frost bolts, and arcane bursts. You kick the boss, you kick the parasitic growth, or else she gets buffed, and you know, she occasionally stacks up her damage. But I really do like the Fire Bloom ability. Of just, you know, it's like they don't do that very often. There's like 4 abilities in the entire game where you have to jump to avoid it. I guess I'll talk about the spider, although I don't know like a single fucking thing about it besides what's here in the journal. Besides, it's a spider in a cave. It does spider things. It has spider ads and also has venom crazed pale orcs. That, I don't know. Let's read it. Let's read it. It sits in silence. During the initial phase of the encounter, Zeratak unleashes her brood while periodically descending to strike. Zeratak descends from her web. I imagine you have to bait her to kill the ads, because it says any pale orcs or players in the vicinity will be bitten for significant physical damage. And it looks like you kill off the spider ads to get her to actually drop down and like you get a fighter directly. Oh, she eats the ads. She eats the pale orcs. Although it looks like this sounds like a thing where you want to lead. Do you want to let these orcs inhale the toxic gas to then like debuff the boss? Is it this just like the first boss of a Taldazar, or is it bad if they like, because it looks like you kill off the toxic spiders leave behind gas, these orcs rush to go get it, and then the boss will eat the orcs? I really don't know. I've probably fought in this boss one time, whereas the other optional boss in Throne of the Tides, I probably did fight that guy maybe like 10 times, like early on, because people wanted his loot, you know. I don't know. I don't know a damn thing about this spider boss. It's a real question mark on if it's going to get added into the. I mean, I imagine it will because it's 5 bosses. The dungeon might be too short with only 4. So I imagine they'll probably make it required. Let's move on to the last boss, and the last boss of both the dungeon pool and the video, I suppose. Last boss of the dungeon and the video. Yes. Big frontal. I remember that. There's mages on the sides of the room that are like helping you the entire time, like also doing damage to the boss. Big frontal. The boss occasionally radiates life. She puts like flowers and stuff all over the room and spawns in ads. And what happens is you want to like she'll do the channel to like spawn in the ads, and you as the party wants to run around and like trample and step on top of the ads before they spawn in, or else you're gonna have a shit ton of little flowers to have to deal with in addition to everything else. Although I imagine they don't do that. They're not that bad, but watch them be absolutely horrendous in Mythic Plus. And I feel like I've seen these other 3 ads, spawn in like once or twice, but again, only ever doing these fights and like time walking. You usually, like, if you happen to get these ads to even spawn in, you're already like about to kill the boss, so it's hard to say what this place is gonna look like. Going into a Mythic Plus format. Like, I imagine it's just like, you know, double frontals, one from the boss, one from this gnarled ancient. 3, excuse me. You know, another one from the vicious mandragora. And then looks like the sproutlings will just run around and like, you know, deal with random party members. And the feral lashers will also do the same thing, I bet. And there's also entanglement, which is like it's like a targetable stun onto a party member, or more, you know, luckily, hopefully, onto one of the Kirin Tor mages on the sides of the room, where they'll just get stunned and they take damage. So I imagine you want to even keep the bonus mages on the sides free from this ability, but it's hard to say until we see it in Mythic Plus. Sort of the dungeon pool. Again, let's go back to this. Let's do like a ranking. This is gonna be a fucking long ass video. I mean, it probably won't be too long for you guys. Like, I'll probably edit out some parts, but for me, it's looking kind of long. Let's kind of just I'll do kind of a broad strokes. I should have done this at the start, probably. Like a too long, don't read, don't watch. But Dawn of the Infinite, Galakrond's Fall. And I didn't even really talk about Dawn of the Infinite, huh? But I guess we've all kind of done it already. And again, it's hard to say how it's going to look in time walking, because some of the bosses do need significant changes. That's like a very fair thing to say. I'm not going to go over every boss ability. I'm just trying to like remind myself of like how bad these guys are. Iridikron might be a really fucking hard damage check at like higher levels of Tyrannical, because he does that. You only fight the boss until he like, you know, dies, air quotes, at 85%. And you have to do a shit ton of damage to him in like a pretty short amount of time. So that might be a real fucking damage check for Mythic Plus. Or they might just scale up the big Giga buff you get to make sure you always kill it. Because the rest of the fight should kind of be the check, and well, at least the mechanics check, and then the damage check is right here. And then like going on to the second wing. And this video is going to be a little all over the place. I don't know if I'll leave this part in, but I know for me, I'm kind of already reeling at the thought of some of the editing here. Chronicar, I don't have much of an opinion on. It's like the dodge stuff, and don't be dumb with the mechanics. Like, make sure someone soaks the small jump, and healers dispel your tanks. Manifested time ways, make sure to communicate with your healer on when you want to get dispelled. Make sure the tank doesn't, cleave the big frontal on your party, dodge the orbs, etc. Blight of Galakron. I don't have, this is another fight where it's just, I don't have much of an opinion on it, where, I haven't actually had an issue with this boss fight, although the big mechanic on the boss of, the Blight that goes out on a person, and you need to hot potato the mechanic around till it gets onto your tank as the ad is about to do the tank frontal. I've never actually had it go off, I think. We've just... I think the Blight resets as the boss, transfers to different, dragons that are dead in the room. I'm pretty sure the Blight resets as well. Hi, Raven. Raven's back. Yeah, well, Raven's always here, but she was back on the desk momentarily. Yeah, again, I don't have much of an opinion on this fight yet, because I just haven't seen it at a high level. All of these initial 4 bosses, I haven't had a single issue with yet in my handful of Dawn of the Infinite runs. I need to probably get back on running it every week. Don't need the trinkets and stuff, but it would be nice to have the cheat death already and stuff on all my characters. My Paladin already has the cheat death. My Death Knight has the other 2 trinkets, the last boss and the Hourglass from the second boss trinkets. Paladin already has the cheat death, so kind of looking good for my tanks, I guess. Love you, Raven. I'll just play with Raven, my other hand. Again, going down to the next wing, Murazon's Rise tier. Shit all over the floor, boss. Eat the orbs before they get to the center of the room, boss. I don't know yet. Hard to say. He hasn't seemed very hard. Him and Time Lost Battlefield, these are the 2... Actually, I guess it's is it every odd numbered boss in here is actually kind of a joke? I have wiped to Chronicar, but I don't think I've wiped to Blight tier or Time Lost Battlefield at all. Whereas the other bosses are kind of the checks. Manifested Time Ways can kind of be rough if you happen to get DPS get clapped by the orbs as it comes out or something. Verticron can't, it's a mechanics check and then a DPS, a tight DPS check. Or at least I definitely imagine it'll be a tight DPS check on higher Tyrannical. Morchi is just gonna be an absolute fucking bricker of keys. Just calling it now, and I think this is something everybody knows who's run the dungeon. Morchi, unless Morchi gets significant changes, this is going to be the killer of your Murazon's Rise, Dawn of the Infinite keys. Time Lost Battlefield, it's just like a fucking dude you fight. It's an orc or a human, and there's ads. Deal with it. Hi, Raven. And going down to Chronolord Deus, the final boss from Uldaman makes a return as the final boss of Dawn of the Infinite. This guy is a bit of a check too, in that you have to keep up with ads, whilst also dodging all the shit on the ground. And then you fight the actual boss, who he does big ass frontals. If I remember right, he does big frontals and more shit on the ground for people to dodge, where you just literally, you get a gigantic football stadium sized field to fight this boss in, and you pretty much have to sit and spin the boss around the edge of the room the entire time. It's if you're gonna do it right, I wish that room was I wish you could fight the Tal Dazar final boss in the same room as Chronolord Deus, but, we don't always get what we want. But at least you do get it on one of the final kite the boss around the room fights. Let's go back to my idea of ranking the dungeons. I'll just do 1 through 10. I was trying to think of like how to justify like A B C D whatever, but it's like that's might be a little too complicated. So like on a scale of 1 through 10, Galakrond's Fall. I think Galakrond's Fall will be an actual solid dungeon. Again, like the question mark will be Iridikron and how the blight mechanic on the third boss is going to work. But I think Galakrond's Fall will probably be like a 7 or 8 out of 10 sort of boss or like dungeon. Okay, 7.5, whatever you want to say. Like I got good faith that this one isn't going to be too bad to sit and spam if you need to. Murazon's Rise, though, I think, unless Morchi gets significant changes, I think Murazon's Rise might actually be one of the more difficult dungeons in the entire pool. You know? Because Morchi will just fucking eat your keys every time you go at her. Unless it, like, you need it, like, we need more time to hide from the breath. We need more time to sit and kill the boss. We need less time probably to be running away from our own like shadow clones or sand clones or whatever you want to call them. Because it's just like, this is just like a fight where you're constant, like I imagine any caster doing this fight, like probably just in fucking hell. You're constantly having to kite around your ad. You're constantly moving to get behind the boss as she's doing her big frontal. Like there's just like, I imagine there's just no break. And I think what the fight needs, oh sorry for moving that. What the fight needs is just like, when you deal with the big frontal, you hide behind the right ad. I think as long as no one gets hit, maybe Morchi just chills for a minute, you know? Maybe not like a damage vulnerable phase, but I definitely think there needs to be a moment on the fight where you just get to sit and play the game instead of like having to run around. I think Dawn of the Infinite Murazon's Rise will probably be like a 4 out of 10 or something. Like I imagine it's going to be rough. But if they change Morchi, it could also probably be like a 7 out of 10, right? I think it could be okay. Just, I think Morchi needs some significant changes. Going on to Waycrest. I got full faith Waycrest is going to be really good. Like, Heartsbane Triad and Gorak Tool, kind of weird bosses. Not amazing bosses, but I think the rest of the dungeon is fucking solid. Like, I'm going to be... When I'm doing my weekly keys, I'm going to be looking for Waycrest Manors every time. Unless it ends up just being like an overtuned mess, right? But if not, I'm going to be running Waycrest Manors every week for my weeklies. Like just like how I do Freehold right now. Freehold's my preferred dungeon in our current Season 2 pool. Waycrest Manor is looking to be my preferred one for the same thing where I like being there. Maybe the boss fights aren't amazing. I mean, Freeholds are. 3 out of 5 Waycrest Manor bosses are as well, but I'm looking forward to being in here. Like I'm saying, Waycrest Manor is like honestly like a 9, like a 9 or a 10 for me. It's actually no. I'm pretty sure I said before, Waycrest Manor is my favorite dungeon of all time. I'm gonna stick to it. Waycrest Manor gets a fucking 10 for me. Because I like fucking being there. It's a haunted house filled with shit to kill. And it fucking nails it. It's a great dungeon. I'm looking forward to running it again. Blackrock Hold. Again, I can't... Like, this one, like Everbloom and, you know, this like bottom L. They're all going to be kind of question marks for me. Just because I don't remember the dungeons that well. Like, I have a better grasp on Blackrock Hold than Everbloom or Throne. But I still feel like... I feel like it isn't going to be that bad. I feel like Blackrock Hold will probably end up being like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for like desirability for the week to go and do. But it really does depend on like how I guess on how the tuning works in there, because I don't really remember any of the fights in there being hard besides the last guy, and it was just more of a factor that you just need to live through one damage taken check, you know? Can you live through the Shadow Bolt volley? Yes or no? That determines if you time the key. Like that's all I remember about running this place back in Legion. I'll say 6 for Black Occult. I think it'll be fine. Ataldazar. I also think Ataldazar is going to be fine. I think it'll be like, I'll probably say like an 8 out of 10, because I think BFA is sorry, I went AFK in WoW. I think the BFA dungeons have like a great plus to them in that like BFA was the longest expansion of all time, if I remember right, and people, you know, because season 4 of BFA happened at the start of COVID, when everyone and their fucking moms was like locked at their homes. You and your buddies got to run these dungeons like all day, every day for months. Like we all fucking ran these places to death and back. So I think BFA dungeons for the most part, like any of them will probably be fine if they ever come back as Mythic Plus dungeons. Yes, I agree, Raven. They're all going to be solid picks. Like, and I think Ataldazar is a good one. I think it's going to be like an 8 out of 10 for desirability. The only real question again is like, how will they deal with snapping in here? Because snapping is it's kind of one of those out of the way game mechanics that I think should have probably been it should have been cut as soon as it started happening, and just like nerf the Saurids, nerf the, you know, whatever other mobs in here that are like really horrendous without snapping. Ataldazar is the place where you snap mobs. And Shrine of the Storm, but Shrine of the Storm is dead. No one wants to run Shrine of the Storms ever. Throne of the Tides. I'm gonna give this place like a big fat fucking 0, I think. Unless they change the elevator and the, you know, the Mindbender boss, I think Throne of the Tides is gonna be a real stinker that no one wants to run. Unless it happens to have really good loot, right? I think that's gonna be the main determining factor for Throne of the Tide's desirability. Do you actually have loot from there you want? Yes or no? No? Then we fucking avoid that place unless we're going for score. Like 0 or 1 for Throne of the Tides. It blows. Darkheart Thicket. I think Darkheart Thicket is one of the better Legion dungeons. It's got probably one of the best, the punniest dungeon boss of all time. Talking too long. I know. I'm talking too long. I can feel it too. Darkheart Thicket has the punniest boss of all time, and I think that's like big plus for it. And then it's just kind of got like some weird fights. Like I don't know if the first boss is going to be a challenge at all nowadays, but I think Darkheart Thicket will still be fine. It could probably be. I think Darkheart Thicket could be another like desirable dungeon because like I just don't really remember any real pain points in there. I'll probably give Darkheart Thicket an 8 for desirability. I think Darkheart Thicket will do just fine. Everbloom. I mean, I think Everbloom is one of the better regarded like WoD dungeons overall, so maybe it's like a fine choice for Mythic Plus nowadays, but I'm still just worried it's going to end up being like a Shadowmoon Battlegrounds times 2, you know? Like there's nothing wrong in my mind with like having easier dungeons for just for dungeons to sit and spam for your weeklies on your alts, on your bad characters, you know. Your friends are carrying your shit bad mage that you haven't played since season 1 and you want to carry in a 20. It's like, this is the dungeon I want to go do. Is it Everbloom? I don't know. I think Everbloom is probably in like middle of the pack, like 5 for desirability. I don't know the dungeon at all. I actually don't even think I can judge it, to be honest. In my limited experience judging, I suppose, but yeah, I think those are my final thoughts on our actual season 3 dungeon pool. It's kind of, I wanted this to be a snappy short video, and I think I failed on that account. looking at my current recording timer. So hopefully for you guys it won't be as long. Hopefully I could probably cut some stuff. But one way or another, I hope you enjoyed. I hope everyone here likes the video. If you don't like it, feel free to dislike it. I would rather have feedback than no feedback, and a like versus a dislike is actually good feedback. Although even better would be, a comment, of course. But I would appreciate anything. I would love to hear back on people's thoughts. Like, do you like the dungeon picks that we got for season 3? Do you think I was right in having King's Rest in there before? Probably no one thinks that besides me. Although again, Fury Warriors. What's the new one called? What's the new axe called? Something the Dream Renderer. Firalath the Dream Renderer. Yeah, I was right. Imagine dual wielding Firalath the Dream Renderer with Getayuki the Cut of Death. It is what it's called, right? Getayuki. I always like calling it Getayuki. Cut it and then Cut of Death when you're not sounding like an idiot to other people. Getty-Iku, yeah. Getty-Iku, the Cut of Death. Just imagine dueling this bad boy with the new legendary. But I'm gonna go ahead and let everyone go and myself go because my throat is going. So hope everyone enjoyed. Hopefully everyone's looking forward to 10.2. I would like going back on my comments thing. I would love to hear if anyone wants me to try to do PTR. I haven't actually tried to play PTR in a very long time. I've only done limited beta testing and stuff for upcoming Blizzard patches or World of Warcraft patches. So maybe people want it. I could try to do it. Give input and stuff on things to come. But guess I'll figure that out when I get to it. I hope everyone has a good day, and hopefully everyone's looking for 10.2. Looking forward to 10.2, I should say. See you later. Do the YouTube things.